Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the operational report for the Ukrainian operations in this Ukraine war, or the operational report for the Ukrainian offensive. So the Ukrainian forces is currently doing multiple offensive at the same time. We have fighting. Well, let me adjust the camera. There's fighting reported over at the Kayamsky sector, over the Orikhiv sector. There are some in the Huaypole sector. They are fighting in the Velika Novosibirsk sector. There is some fighting, some actions at Marinka sector. They are attacking in the Adiyevka sector, in the Bakhmut sector, Sivas sector, and the Crimea sector. And if you cannot see what is this, it's basically everywhere. They are basically attacking everywhere, and there's probing over at the Kupiansk and Svatove front. So basically they are everywhere attacking. So let's go through in terms of what's happening over the Zaporizhia front. At the Zaporizhia front, the Ukrainian forces is currently focusing on the operations to capture Pyatikaki over here, over at the Kayamsky sector. The situation there is extremely difficult for the Ukrainian forces, as every time they try to capture it, the Russian forces will actually counterattack, and with all these counterattack, the Ukrainian forces have to withdraw back, and they just keep coming here and back over at Pyatikaki, and this is basically trapping the Ukrainians away from doing anything else. And it's also pretty hard for the Ukrainian forces to do much around here, as there is a heavy defensive positions all around this place. So the Russian forces are actually wasting the Ukrainian forces over at this area here. The Ukrainian forces did try to attack the Zerebianki after capturing Pyatikaki on the 20th. However, it did not work out. As you can see, this is a major defense line. The Ukrainian forces got pushed back by Russian counterattack. And currently, the latest information is that the Ukrainians are back within Pyatikaki again. They are fighting within Pyatikaki. So pretty difficult situation for the Ukrainian forces over this area here, as this seems like the only easy place to fight. But as you can tell, it looks more like a kill zone rather than an easy place to fight. So and over at the Orikhiv sector, the Ukrainian forces continue their operations to attack towards the south of Novodanilivka. And this time around, we don't see operations south of Malatomashka. The main operations currently is pushing in this area here towards Robotine, and tentatively the advance also doesn't seem to have worked out pretty well. The operations here is mainly by small squads, infantry squads. They are brought to the front line by armored vehicles, and then they unload, and then they actually push in on foot. The fighting doesn't look really positive for the Ukrainian side tentatively at the Orikhiv sector. Over at the Huaypole sector, there's some probing reports over at Merne, Dorozyanka, and at this place called the Reshitilivka, Reshitilivske. So Reshitilivke. However, the all these are reconnaissance. These are all scouting, and some of them actually got spotted by the Russian forces pretty early, and they were even hit very near to Huaypole, and they got contacted at near Dorozyanka and Reshitilivke. So the situation is also not very good for the Ukrainians. They are still trying to probe the lines. We might see some major offensive in this area here. Tentatively, we're not sure, as this is one of the thinnest line of the Russian lines over at this area here, which the Ukrainian forces should focus on. Moving on at the Velika Novosibirsk sector, the fighting continues as per previous operational report. However, as per from the last operational report till now, the Ukrainian forces still have not break through any of the Russian lines in this area here. After the last success at Makarivka, and that's pretty much the last success the Ukrainians have at this front. They are still trying to push for Rivnopil. They're fighting on the eastern part of Novopil. fighting at Novoderivka. A lot of the actions is actually at Levatne, pushing towards Priyotne, but it's not working out as well. And they were also trying to attack Novodonetsk. Previously, they have this salient over here on the eastern part of Uruzaine. However, this is as far as they go. The fighting over here is pretty tough for the Ukrainians. So far, no success. And the Ukrainian forces also are unable to push for Staromayorsk. Previously, they were trying to attack Staromayorsk from Makarivka. This attack does not even work out at all, because when the Ukrainian forces enter Makarivka, they got shelled by or fired by Russian forces that's on the higher ground over on the western part of Makarivka. So situation here is basically a gone case at this current situation. So that's all from the Velika Novosibirsk sector. The Ukrainian forces currently over at the Marinka sector is mainly on the defensive. There is some counter-attack information around Marinka. However, mainly the Russians are on the offensive over here, and especially in the south of Marinka, the Russian forces is making a lot of progress, and the Ukrainian forces is trying to hold the line on the south of Marinka. And the Ukrainian forces also continued their offensive at Avdiivka to try to cut off the two pincer. There is a engulfing Avdiivka. Fighting is reported at Krasnohorivka, towards Vasily, towards Vodian and Povomaisky. There is Russian operations over at the Krotabalka and Kayamka region. So the Ukrainian forces is pretty much disturbed, I guess, that because if they would have to divert some forces to defend Avdiivka, but the situation over here, the Ukrainians are still on the offensive. Not sure how far they can go, because we don't really get much intel in details regarding at the Avdiivka front. The Ukrainian operations continue also at the Bakhmut front. At the Bakhmut front, the Ukrainian forces continue their massive pincer operation. This time round, the fighting over at the Bakivka region, the northern flank, is not happening. They got bombarded by flamethrower system too heavily for the Ukrainians to actually launch attack in the northern flank. But over at the southern flank, the Ukrainian forces continue with the attack on Klishevka from the northwest and the western part, and there's attacking over at the Canal region. There was previous information of the Ukrainian forces trying to attack Mayorsk. Sorry, not Mayorsk, Mayos. But this operation coming from Pivnishny has been given up tentatively. So there is, however, a major push south of Sivas, with the Ukrainian forces pushing down towards Soledad towards Yakovlivka. So especially the push towards Yakovlivka is particularly strong, and there is push from Rosolivka, Mykolaievka, and Satoivazeti. The main objective is the city or town of Soledad. So this is the outer pincer, where it's supposed to be going south to capture Soledad and meet with the forces that is captured Mayorsk. This is the outer pincer, and then the inner pincer is actually from Klishevka, and then they will go around Bakhmut. However, this is still a long way. So far, the Ukrainians have not broken the lines just yet. Very minor progress over at Klishevka, not really something that is very significant. However, it was noted that there's a concentration of Ukrainian forces over at the Bakhmut front. So we might be expecting some kind of offensive pretty soon, maybe the next 2 days at the Bakhmut front from the Ukrainians, and in a renewed super duper uber Bakhmut offensive. But we shall see how this goes. And over at the Crimea region is particularly interesting. The Russian forces actually did offensive over on the western part of Crimea. Then the Ukrainian forces over the past 24 hours actually counter-attack in a major counter-offensive operation across the entire front. The northern part here is more of a DRG scouting operations, but the main push is actually from Torske all the way through the Serebranski Forestry. And the attack seems to be pretty big. It's reported by the Russian Defense Ministry Center Group of Forces. So far, there is no breakthrough just yet. The operation is pushing towards the south of Crimea and towards Dibrova and from the Torske eastward. So this operation actually disrupted Russian offensive operations that was previously happening from the 19th and 19, 20, and then now 21 is actually the Ukraine is actually on the offensive. So that's all from the Crimea front. Over the Ukrainian operations over at the Svatove-Kupiansk front remains to be largely of skirmishes or scouting or recon or probing kind of operations, with probing at Yakhine, Kotelivka, and traditional Novoselivsky region, and at Sinkivka region. There is no Ukrainian offensive currently happening over this area, and the Ukrainians to try to do offensive in this area also seems to be particularly difficult because it's really close to the Russian border, which means Russian Air Force actually Air Force activity is pretty heavy over here, and the Russians very hardworkingly always shelling Ukrainian positions, so no accumulation of forces seems to be really difficult. But we do know that there is a significant force of Ukrainian forces over at Kupiansk and Petropavlivka, and there are some force over at Vorishna. So the Ukrainian forces may still try to do something, but tentatively I don't think this is the focus right now. And so that's all from the Kupiansk and Svatove front. There is no more indication of Ukrainians trying to break into the Belgorod region. It seems like the last 2-3 operations trying to enter into Russian territory ended in a terrible failure, and the readiness and the amount of forces that the Russians have at the border seems to be too heavy for the Ukrainians to actually use this kind of freedom fighters or logic or raiding logic to try to break into the Russian territory. So it's not working. There was some drone strike reported towards Moscow. The drones got shot down. It's 3 different drones, but it's not significant in the strategic sense. And so the based on my own sources, there might be some very serious operations coming up over the Zaporizhia region over the next 2 days. Whether it is true, I do not know, but based on other multiple sources that it cannot be quoted, not just from me, from my other contacts, it seems like there is a significant number of forces over the Zaporizhia region, and this coupled with the entire water, this lake here is no longer around. The Dnipro River has basically went into becoming just a stream. The stream is pretty thin. It's something like this kind of thin, and it's pretty shallow, which allows the Ukrainians to actually consider attempting to just cross over in a river crossing kind of thing. So this is the pre-Kakhovka Dam explosion river is actually very, very wide. Now it's just very thin. Photos of the Kakhovka riverbed, the old riverbed, looks really dry now. It looks pretty hard now. So in the next 2 days, we might actually see the Ukrainians in this possible Ukrainian escalation of offensive may actually try to open a new front over at this westernmost part of the Zaporizhia front. And however, of course, this is just speculations. I just want to let you know that there's a possibility, because we also have the NATO forces conducting major exercise. I think, if I'm not wrong, it's in Poland. So is reportedly the biggest NATO air exercise ever, and it's supposed to end within the next 1 to 2 days. And the danger of this is that this seems to coincide with Ukrainian possible offensive, upscaling of the offensive over at the Zaporizhia region, over at the Kupiansk region. And if the NATO forces suddenly enter and they declare a no-fly zone, within Ukraine and even support operations in terms of airstrike, air superiority operations in the front lines, then welcome to World War III. So hopefully this does not happen because I don't want to die yet. So, and I don't want the world to go into the World War situation. But the number of coincidence is very scary. Belarus is also doing mobilization as exercise. So a lot of things happening and all coming at the same time. Putin also warned the NATO forces from against using aircraft to fire stuff in the special military operation zones, because if they do that, they are going to strike decision making centers. Basically, they are warning that they will take out the leadership of the Ukrainian government. So this is because if NATO goes in, then Ukraine is totally pointless. Ukrainian leadership is totally pointless, geopolitically speaking. So yeah, a lot of things all happening at the same time. Hopefully it does not escalate. But anyway, in terms of the Ukrainian military operations, is still the offensive is still at a very high pace. Even though the pace over at the Zaporizhia region have slowed down, but if you look at the overall situation, the Ukrainian offensive is still pretty much at a very high tempo. Anyway, this is the operational report on the Ukrainian offensive and the Ukrainian operations within the Ukraine war. And do subscribe if you have not subscribed. Press the like button, and I'll see you in the next update.